Today we'll be doing a part 2 review of the Wall Street Killer Expert Advisor by Mr. Pablo Dominguez Sanchez. Stick around to the end to see if this is still a grade EA, worth your time, or if it has not met up to its expectations. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So as you guys can see here, my first review is actually on the sales page and the developer has pinned it here. Just wanted to let you guys know that in the interest of transparency. And essentially, last time I reviewed this bot, it was already something which I thought was looking super promising, but it didn't have a very long live track record yet. So I wasn't 100% certain as to what the future performance would be like. But what was quite neat is after that review, it's actually been running for quite a few months, and the performance has been excellent to date. So I just wanted to go back and kind of do a part 2 just to check in on what has happened since then. Has the developer made any changes? And just kind of see if the bot is still performing and applying the same strategy as I thought when I made the original review. So what is quite neat here actually is that he's trading in a few different sized accounts, and we have actually both an aggressive as well as a pretty hefty $10,000 account to look at. But before we hop over there, let's just go through the sales page here to see if anything has perhaps changed. And one thing that I looked at last time was the only up parameter, and he says this is customizable risk for trade with an option to prevent lot reduction after losses. Oh, fair enough. Okay, so I guess if it's a balance-based risk management approach, like 1% of the account or 2% of the account risked, the only up feature would effectively block the account size or the trade size from going down. And some people like that because they don't like to scale down after a loss, which I would personally think is quite a risky approach to take if you just always keep your lot size consistent. However, if you're trading with a reasonable starting risk to begin with, it could still very well work and not pose an enormous risk. And here we can go in now, just read the rest of this, but I don't think anything has really changed. It's still a US 30 scalping system which trades once per day. And since the last time we actually did a review, I did a bit more looking into it, and I really concluded that this is an opening range breakout on the US 30. So it's a tried and tested strategy, very similar to a bot that we sell as well called the US Lightning. So it's a very good strategy. So here we can now go through the live signal page, and this is the aggressive one. So on the aggressive one, we can see he's made around 74% returns. So this was like, I imagine he's using a bit more leverage or quite a bit more leverage, and that's why we're seeing this magnitude of returns. But more importantly, we can maybe hop over to his $10,000 account, which is actually pretty impressive, or 10,000 euros, because he's managed to make 33% returns in just a few months. So here, yeah, in 4 months, he's made 33% returns. One thing to note is when going through his signal is he says that this trades once a day, where in reality it's actually trading once a day but with 3 different orders. So I venture that maybe to avoid slippage, and because this is more of a scalping breakout style system, he's simply spreading out the order across 3 different orders, which would make a lot of sense to me. But what's quite interesting is that if you look at like the 3 orders which happen at the same time, the profit levels are not always exactly the same. And I thought this is the biggest update since my last review. That was a pretty cool approach to take. So instead of kind of putting all of your eggs in one basket, especially with US 30, which is such a volatile instrument, by spreading it out across a few different orders, and I imagine each order is kind of handled or managed a bit differently, that would probably give you a bit of diversification. So if you have a bad fill on order 1, order 2 and 3 might fill super well. So you're kind of hedging out your risk. And also something really interesting here is that he's closing some of his orders in just a very slight loss. So I would venture that like his trailing stop loss starts pretty quickly. Moreover, here we see, yes, even when it takes more of a big loss, it's still not that massive in the grand scheme of things. So his risk reward here is actually pretty good. If we go over to his statistics page, we can see he has around a 68% win rate, and his risk reward is actually positive, which is really not something you see too often with this type of scalping system. So the fact that he's able to couple both of those together, that's actually really impressive. And like I've developed similar systems myself, and that's something which is very challenging to do. So it shows that his approach to exiting the position through picking appropriate take profit and stop loss levels must be very good. So here I've taken the liberty of downloading the Expert Advisor and running a quick backtest. And yes, the equity curve looks honest. It doesn't look manipulated to me. Same as before. Still a good bot. Still using an opening range breakup. Sorry, that was the wrong graph. Here we go. Wall Street Killer. And yeah, it looks still very good. Still taking the opening range breakouts. It does have losses as well, which is usually a very good sign, because it shows that less manipulation. There's no manipulation happening, or there's very low probabilities of manipulation happening. And as a final test here, we can go over to the Inputs tab just to kind of see if any of the parameters have changed. And from what I can see, nothing out of the ordinary. It's still using like very much trailing stop loss. He's giving you a few different options for parameters. He's also very open about, like, it is using a trailing stop loss. There is a trailing start. There is a trailing distance. You essentially know how it works. A lot of developers don't like to share too much because they don't want people to kind of know the secret sauce. But he's quite forthcoming, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it still looks like a very good bot, and so far so good. So maybe to go back here to the main page, what we can really see is that it performed as expected. He gave a good strategy, it worked well, and it's kind of refreshing to see bots like ours also are very similar to this, where we actually make real bots. We make very good bots, as does Pablo. So it's nice when kind of the Expert Advisor industry is getting a little bit more legitimate. People are putting out good bots. That's always a good sign to see. So guys, not really a tremendous update here, but more or less that I wanted to go and see the actual live performance. And it's pretty neat that it's actually performed well once it was launched, unlike most EAs, which kind of eventually fizzle out because they're not particularly well made. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop me a comment and have a great day.